tonight, we shine a light on one of the most impactful organizations in the country, Hands for Hunger, and the woman who's led it with vision, heart, and unmatched purpose. Executive Director, Keisha Ellis. After 10 years of service, 6 of those at the helm, Keisha Ellis has led the team with an overwhelming amount of vision and compassion, implementing programs that have changed lives. And now we're here to talk about what comes next for this phenomenal organization. Welcome to On the Record. I'm Megan Shepard, in for Jerome Sawyer. Stay tuned as we get started on the other side of this break. Welcome back to On the Record. We are here with Keisha Ellis, Executive Director of Hands for Hunger. Welcome back, Keisha. 10 years of impact, 6 years as Executive Director. Let's take this moment to really reflect on your journey. 10 years, how would you describe that journey?
I would say 10 years at Hands for Hunger really have been just a wonderful experience. I love the organization so much. And I remember when I first applied to be Communications Manager at Hands for Hunger, I just thought, wouldn't it be amazing if I could be a part of an organization that is dedicated to doing something really good and having a positive impact in the country. And I am just so happy and elated that I was chosen for that position.
And then you were also chosen to be the position of Executive Director. Talk a little bit about that.
So actually, I have moved through a lot of parts at Hands for Hunger. I was Communications Manager, and then I became Strategic Initiatives Manager. And that was really fun and interesting. That was an opportunity for me to really start looking at programming and solutions and ideas. And, you know, I was encouraged to think of different ways to approach what we were trying to do in the country. And then after that, I was given the opportunity to serve as Executive Director. And so it was good that I had had that experience of thinking things through, looking at what works. How do you implement a program? What is it that people want and need when it comes to food assistance? And so, yeah, for the past 6 years, I've been Executive Director and have really had an opportunity to put some creative ideas into play, to motivate people, to inspire people, hopefully, a little bit. And it's been really good.
You know, one of those creative solutions and ideas was the Hands for Hunger Pantry, which also launched in 2021. Talk a little about that.
So the Hands for Hunger Pantry was really one of those ideas that came out of necessity, but also a desire to really make real impact, right? So if we remember back to 2021, it was still very much COVID. Perhaps, you know, it was after the really worst part of COVID. It was when we were starting to think, okay, how are we going to exist and live on the other side of this pandemic? And so that's when we realized at Hands for Hunger as well that we needed to do a lot more than we had been doing before. Before 2020, we were really just a food rescue organization. And I say just, but I don't mean just. We were revolutionary even back then. We collected surplus food, made sure it didn't go to waste, and shared it with organizations. But after 2020, we realized that, okay, the country needs us to do a little bit more. We are committed to this. Let's see what we can do. And so when we started thinking about how do we really make sure that we are reaching people where they're at, offering assistance, and always at the same time remembering the human dignity of each person that we serve. And so we looked around at ideas, and we saw that there were client choice models that operated in other parts of the world, mainly Europe. And so we said, you know what, we're going to give this a shot. We're going to give this a shot here in the Bahamas, in Nassau. And people thought, hey, wait, maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe there's a reason why people stand in a line and are given one box. It's definitely orderly. It's definitely perhaps more convenient, but it's not the way to really make sure that we promote dignity. We leave our clients feeling empowered, and of course make sure that we're not giving clients food that they won't be able to use.
How has that model been received?
It's been received really well. We had a lot of good surprises. So I'll tell you, when we started, we were fully prepared to only be in operation for one day, right? We were like, if we're telling people they can come in and choose the food that they want, we might find that we're wiped out in 2 hours, right? We were fully prepared to have to pivot. But what we found was just the opposite, right? At first, our clients were kind of very standoffish. They were like, well, what do you mean we can just take what we want, right? So our clients were actually extremely polite, right? And so we had to encourage them to actually take what it is that they need. They do not have to choose tuna if they don't like tuna. They can get something else. And so a big part of it was building trust as well with our clients. And once we were able to do that, we saw that people really then felt empowered to say to us, hey, I don't actually need rice. Is it okay if I don't get rice, but maybe just focus on the produce? Right? Because sometimes when people are asking for help or assistance, sometimes there's an idea that you have to take what you get, right? If you don't take what you get, then you're ungrateful or you're not actually in need. So we had to help our clients trust that we believe them. When they tell us what their family needs, we believe them, and we want them to feel empowered to make the choices that benefit their family.
And I'm sure that helps cut down on waste, because there's no sense in me taking it home if I'm not going to use it.
Exactly.
So how has the pandemic shaped the last 6 years for you, maybe with the new ideas, and how has the pandemic really helped implement the new programs?
Well, I will say the pandemic, and of course Hurricane Dorian as well, right? So there was Hurricane Dorian that really kind of was the first push for us, because of course after we had our displaced community members moving to Nassau, we realized that the need really increased, right? In the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian. And we noticed immediately that our agencies that we would ordinarily donate directly to they needed some help. They needed assistance helping all of these people. So that was our first kind of foray into direct assistance. We implemented cash and voucher assistance at that time. That was also kind of new and novel in the country, where we gave families cash or vouchers and say, hey, you know what you need, right? You go and get it. And that was a model that was fairly new in the Bahamas, but again, internationally, according to international standards, it's something that was really common in other parts of the world. So we implemented that, and then of course there was COVID-19 that came that completely shifted everything, and that's when we really realized that okay, we definitely need to use our position, use our knowledge, use our networks to really see how much of an impact we can make during this time. And that was the impetus. That was the thing that told us, hey, not only can you, right, but you should, right? Not only should you, but you have a moral obligation to step up, do as much as you can, and not be shy about implementing the projects that you think will actually lead to a solution.
So I know I'm from Grand Bahama, and to this day, COVID-19 and the hurricane is still a marker when it comes to fundraising and donations. Have you seen a drop-off in donations since those, or has it even back out? What is that?
So I will say that during COVID, we were fortunate to get a lot of donations coming in just from individuals, right? Individuals, and I'm telling you, something about humans is when you work in this line of work, you really get to see a lot of the best that humanity has to offer. And during COVID-19, at the very start of it, we saw a lot of people who were able to really thinking, okay, how can I help? Right? And they would ask us, you know, how can we assist you in all of this work that you're going to be trying to do during this time? So we got a lot of donations during that time, all of which was used in the expansion of our programs. And since then, I can say that it's remained adequate. I will always say that.
There's always more to be done.
Of course, of course. But our donations, as you know, we are fully funded by private donations, right? So you can see, and every dollar that we take in, we use on our programs, right? So all of the expansion that you see is fueled by donations. So it's definitely been adequate. It can always be more. We're always, you know, stretching every last penny.
Absolutely.
But of course, that's the nature of our work.
Well, it's good to hear that the community really chipped in to do its part.
Absolutely.
And I know you also chipped in with the National Food Distribution Task Force during that time. What was that like, and what did it mean for you to be a part of making a difference on a grander scale? Obviously, you already do a huge work here in the community, but taking it to the National Food Task.
Yeah, so the National Food Distribution Task Force was the first time we had coordinated with the government on a food distribution program. It was actually the only time we've ever done it in the history of our organization. And again, it was one of those things where we were like, okay, well, we don't actually have a choice, right? This is an opportunity for us to contribute to our community. This is an opportunity for us to greatly extend our reach. And this is a way for us to work with other organizations that are committed to the same things as we are to really see how much we can help the people in this country during this time. So it really was something that we just felt like was definitely something that we needed to be a part of. And we learned a lot. We were able to help so many people throughout the country. It also was another opportunity for us to really think things through. How are we actually going to help people the best way that we can? And we delivered packages to people's houses directly. For our communities in the Family Islands, we again offered the vouchers at the food stores. So even during the pandemic, we maintain that people have dignity, right? This is a global pandemic. Everything is being shaken up, but what is not changing is that each individual has dignity and autonomy, and that should be respected.
And then 2022, the school pantries.
Yes.
Talk about that and how important that was for you and for the organization.
Yeah, so with the school pantries, that came about because, well, we are firm believers that there should be universal school feeding, right? We just think that goes without saying. And we had been trying for a while to see, okay, what can we do to kind of accelerate this universal school feeding? We had attempted to try to work with the National School Lunch Program for a while, but we weren't really making any traction with that. So we sat down and thought, okay, we need to get some food into these schools. There are children who are going to school hungry. What can we do? So we reached out to principals and guidance counselors, and we asked them, you know, how often are you going into your pocket, going into your lunchbox to give food to a child who needs it? And they said constantly, all the time, right? This is what we do. And so that's when we said, well, you know what? We'll provide you with food, right? We will give you a store of food that you can then offer to students who come to you and say, you know, we don't have lunch money. We're not on the school lunch program for various reasons. I forgot my lunch money. You know, I don't have access to lunch money. Whatever the reason, if there's a child hungry in the school, we want them to be able to have access to food.
How many schools are currently a part of the program, and what has the reception been like from the teachers, the parents, the students?
Yeah, we have 15 schools on the program. That is not enough. I'm torn, right? Because I would like to see us in every school, right? But at the same time, what I would actually like to see, if you're actually asking me what I wish for is for food to be provided for all students, right? Across all schools, right? So we always said that the school pantries were a stopgap measure. Right? What can we do in the immediate? We absolutely appreciate that look, when someone says they're hungry, they need food right now, right? They don't want to hear, they don't need to hear, oh, we're working on a really robust program that will eliminate food insecurity in 15 years, right? No, they need food right now. So that is always what the school pantries, and to be honest, all of our programs are all designed to be, okay, let's provide immediate food while we also continue to work on how we address the root causes of this, this systemic issues that lead to this. So that we really are working toward a Bahamas where no one goes hungry.
Absolutely. So now we're going to move to 2023 with the Empowerment Program. Why the shift to holistic care?
Well, the Empowerment Program is, well, what it is it's an opportunity for us to just kind of give more information to our clients, right? We understand that part of the reasons behind food insecurity is, you know, lack of financial literacy, or a lack of, not even necessarily a lack of skills, but a lack of understanding what skills you may have and how you can use those skills. So we started offering small seminars or small information sessions for our clients as they came to get food from the pantry, just information, you know, opportunities to ask experts that they may not usually have access to, you know, ask advice or guidance, resume building, those sorts of things, as well as other things like we had a empowerment program where we had all of the summer camps that were available free of charge or at very low rates, so that when our clients came in at the beginning of the summer, they could start thinking about, okay, how can I make sure that my children are cared for during the summer when they're out of school?
What would you say were some of the topics covered in those? I know you mentioned financial literacy. Would it be like budgeting or creating a meal plan? What were some of the topics that were covered?
Yeah, financial literacy was exactly that. Budgeting, meal plans, how to stretch your dollar for, you know, to make sure you can get as much food as possible. Our human resources one was really fun, where we actually had human resources experts sit with our clients and help them go over their resumes, help them understand how they can use their skills. One thing that some people sometimes take for granted is even looking at a job posting or an advertisement for a job and understanding that, oh, hey, I can do this, right? Because the language might be different than what you're used to.
Sometimes you just count yourself out ahead of
time. So it was a lot of that as well, you know, how to have an interview, things like that. We've also done hurricane preparedness tips, you know, how to make sure that you and your family, your pets are safe during a hurricane, and preparedness, of course, right? So that we can all remain as safe as possible. And some of our favorite ones are self-care, something that we sometimes forget, right? Mental and emotional health contribute so much toward food insecurity and, you know, just overall happiness. So we've had sessions on, you know, how to care for yourself, why it's important to care for yourself, and how you can extend that care to other people as well.
And how has that been received? Have persons come back and say, this class really helped me, I finally got the job? How has that been received?
We're really pleased with how many clients come back and say, hey, just so you know, you might not be seeing me for a while. I've gotten a job. They let us know when they're applying. They let us know when they've gone on an interview. You know, they stop in to say, to let us know how it's been, how the interview went. Yeah, and we get them coming back in to say, I got the job. They come in their uniform. They're usually really excited. And then we've had clients who then come back and donate to the pantry. You know, after they've gotten back on their feet, they come back and donate whatever they can to the pantry.
Awesome. And so in 2024, the theme, stretching every dollar. How do we turn $50 into $150 worth of food, especially now in this climate?
Yeah, so the way we do that is through partnerships and, you know, kind of making deliberate decisions. So sometimes people feel uncomfortable when charities are like, please just give us the money, right? But there's a reason why we say, please just give us the money. And that's because we know exactly how to spend it, right? We have a staff member on team who's amazing, and you know, she does our purchasing for her. You can call her right now and say, who has the best rate on tuna, right? And she'll be able to tell you. And so we for every time we make a purchase, we really compare the options, we compare the needs, we look at the sizes and the quantities, and you know, we have people in place whose job it is to do that, right? So if you want to donate to us, you know, you take, you know, your $10, you go to the food store, you buy what's available in the food store, whereas we have the time, right, and it's part of our mandate to make sure that we spend that that $10 the best way we can. And then, of course, that's supplemented through donations, right? So even though we're able to provide, we spend about $50 to purchase the items in a food box, we're buying those in bulk. Right, so that means that once you actually look at the items that we have in a food box or a visit to our pantry, if you were to calculate each of those items and then go to a regular retailer to buy those individually, you would find that it would equal about $150 that an individual would have to spend kind of going to one shop and buying the items one.
Let's talk about the importance of your team and gathering all this intel and just making sure everything goes, because I know I'd have to go back to the website and be like, okay, who has this, who has that? Talk about your team and the wonderful work that they do to making this all possible.
Yeah, so we're a small team, but we are so mighty, and we really are each dedicated, absolutely dedicated to the work that we do, right? So our communications manager, JJ, you know, she's on this. She knows exactly how to tell the stories of our clients with dignity and with hope and with respect, right? To the point where we have clients who are happy to talk to JJ. Right? And then, of course, we have Ormanik in the office, who is just making sure that the whole show just runs really smoothly and great. She does our purchasing. She's also the person who you would probably talk to if you wanted to make a donation, right? And she keeps our drivers on track. Our drivers, of course, are amazing. They are really the face of the organization. And when I say the face, they are the ones who are on the road every day talking to our agencies, because of course we're still supporting all of our agencies that we did before the pandemic, and they're collecting from our donors. They're really great at what they do, and of course Stacy, who is our pantry manager, who is able to, you know, when someone walks in the door, she says, "Hey, how are the kids? You know, how did they do on the math test? We got some cereal in that your kids would like." So we're each just really dedicated to the job, dedicated to our mission, and we all come together and work really well together, I think.
Awesome. And over the past 6 years, this may be a hard one. What would you say would be one of the most memorable experiences or stories over the past 10 years, actually, 6 years?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, I couldn't. I will say that our family island trips are always amazing. So we've had opportunities to visit Eleuthera, Andros, to be on the ground and distribute food. So that's really amazing as well. And even though we haven't been able to visit the other islands yet, we also distribute to other islands as well, Acklins and Exuma, Long Island. Oh my goodness! I would say, you know what? I'm not even gonna let you bait me into that question.
It's all the heartwarming moments.
Just, it's all really great. But I would say that it really means a lot to me when someone says, and it happens often enough for it to really matter when someone says, "Oh my gosh, you worked at Hands for Hunger? Y'all was such a big help during the pandemic." Yeah. Or my uncle lost his job last year, and y'all really helped him. You know, so I think those are the moments when someone
that's
can.
The rewarding part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keisha. We will put a pin in this conversation here for now. And when we come back, we turn our attention to the numbers. How does the organization track their impact? And of course, Keisha's final thoughts on where you'd like to see the organization go in the future. This is On the Record. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to On the Record. In this next segment, I want to take a look at the dollars behind the dinners. Keisha, thanks so much for sticking with us. Let's dive back into it. Food insecurity. We've seen a massive rise in demand. What do you think is driving the surge in food insecurity?
I don't know. See, I think that question has two parts, right? So in Hands for Hunger, we have noticed our numbers just growing exponentially, right? And so we always wonder in-house, we're like, okay, what exactly is leading to the increase in the demand for our services particularly, right? And we understand that it's not as easy to just say, oh my gosh, things must be really hard out there. So much more people want food. We know that that's definitely a part of it, right? But what we're also wondering is, is it because people are now feeling perhaps more comfortable asking for help, right? Or maybe these people have always been food insecure, have always suffered, but perhaps didn't feel safe or seen, right? Or didn't have access to perhaps some of the food options that are out there, right? So we understand that there's not going to be just one simple clear-cut answer as to why Hands for Hunger specifically is experiencing such a surge in demand, right? We know that it definitely has to do with food prices vis-a-vis wages in the country. I think that everyone understands that, minimum wage is just really it is really inadequate if we're talking about a decent standard of living, right? For anyone who relies on even 2 minimum wage incomes in a household, right? So I think that it doesn't take a rocket scientist, it doesn't take, an MIT math major to understand that, $250, $260 is just really an inadequate amount of money to survive in, a country with one of the highest costs of living in the world. So we think that there's a lot to do with it, but we're happy that people do understand that they can come to Hands for Hunger for assistance. We're always surprised when we encounter people who say that they didn't know that they could, and I think that a lot of that has to do with maybe a lack of understanding. I think that perhaps some people think that it's more difficult to get assistance from Hands for Hunger than it actually is. We think that a lot of people feel that, if they're employed, if they're working, then they don't qualify for it. And that's not actually the case because, as we know, emergencies come up, right? Or perhaps the income that you're bringing in is just not enough for you to pay rent, pay the light bill, and to provide food for your families. So we like to make that message really clear that when you come to Hands for Hunger, you do not have to prove to us that you are experiencing food insecurity. Of course, we ask questions, we learn a little bit more about your background, but we know that food insecurity can be chronic or it can be short-term, right? And for many of us, if we were to miss one paycheck or if we had one major medical emergency or a repair needed to the house, I think a lot of us would find that perhaps the first thing that really would get cut out was the amount of food that you were able to provide for your families. So Hands for Hunger is happy to stand in that gap for people, not saying that, because you do have a job, you're automatically disqualified. That is not the case at all.
Obviously a misconception. What is the process like to get assistance?
So we like to direct people to our website, handsforhunger.org/help. There's a short intake form there. You fill that out. Someone on our team gives you a call back. We find out a little bit more about your situation, and then we make an appointment for you to come to the pantry.
Nice, plain and simple. So we talked about it a little bit, but how does the high cost of living, particularly grocery inflation, factor into the daily realities of the families that you serve?
I think that is the thing that's on their mind most often, and when we talk about nutrition versus the cost of food, when we talk about the biggest issues, the biggest health issues that face our population, we're talking about diseases, hypertension, high blood pressure, that are directly related in a lot of cases to diet, right? And then we can look at, the cost of a healthy diet and how much more expensive it is to eat fruits and vegetables than it is to buy something packaged. And what we have families who are making the decisions based on what they can afford. And food insecurity, according to the FAO, really is a spectrum, right? So it goes from not being able to afford the healthy food that you know that you should, right? Which I think is most of us. Most of us really wish that we could eat really top quality, all organic, all of that food. Few of us can actually afford that. So we're all slightly food insecure if we think about our nutritional requirements versus what we can afford. And then on the other end of the spectrum are people who sincerely do not know where their next meal is going to come from. Right? And so all in between that is the conversation about food insecurity. And I think the fact of the matter is, yes, food is very expensive. And so people are having a difficulty meeting their nutritional needs. And of course, the nutritional needs that they would like to meet for their children. People are finding a hard time really keeping up with that.
What are some of the misconceptions surrounding food insecurity here at home?
I think that some of the misconceptions are that, again, it's something that affects other people, right? No, food insecurity is something that we all have the potential to face. And if we really were to take stock of, our own practices, our own life, I think that we would all realize that, we are affected by food insecurity in some way, shape, or form. Of course, for a country that imports so much of its food, right? We are one disaster or one global event that could really affect the way we are able to access food. So I think perhaps the biggest misconception is that food insecurity is something that affects only lower income people, and by extension should only really be a conversation around charity or giving back. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that food insecurity is a national issue, and something that I always say. People laugh at me when I say this, but I mean it. I'm like, food is the easiest one, right? Let's just take a couple of years, focus on food, fix it. Right? Get all of those matters squared away, because all of the issues surrounding food in this country are definitely fixable. We're not talking about widespread famine, right? We're talking about distribution, right? I sincerely think it's an easy fix. If we just kind of prioritize it in that way, we get everyone fed, and then we can move on to the other issues plaguing society.
How do you track the number of families that the organization assists?
Well, we track each pound that we collect. So if you donate a pound of rice to us, that goes on the record, it goes into our database, and we can recall that information years down the line. We also track our clients as they sign up, and we also track how often they visit, right? So if you were to come to our pantry, we can tell you, we can say, oh, you haven't been here for about 6 months. Have things been going good? So we track each person that comes into our pantry, and that also helps because we often get calls about perhaps a family. You might know someone in your church or someone who you work with. And of course, we don't divulge this information, but if you say, hey, Jim Brown really needs help, we can check our records and we can say, oh, you're right, Jim Brown hasn't been here in a year. We wonder if everything's okay. We can actually reach out to Mr. Brown to see how things are.
And we talked about the donations. How important is accountability and transparency? How does that work with the organization?
We think that is paramount to our success, right? One, as I said, everything that we do is funded by private donations, right? So we have to make sure that if you donate $100 to us, we want to be able to tell you where that $100 went, right? So transparency in our finances is very important to us. It's how we keep credibility with our donors, as well as transparency with our record keeping and our numbers. We know that if we are actually going to tackle these issues, we need to know what the numbers actually are and what the need is, right? We need to know exactly how many families are coming to us each week, right? Can we afford to serve more people? Can we not afford to serve more people? When we go out to fundraise, how much do we actually need in order to meet the increasing demand, right? These are the numbers that we know we have to have on hand, because we are committed. We actually want to serve as many people as possible. We want to eradicate hunger, and the only way we're going to do that is if we actually know what it is we're talking about.
Is there a milestone number that stands out? We have distributed 1,000 pounds of food, 2,000. Is there a milestone number that stands out for you? Not to put you on the spot with numbers.
I remember, I think it was about 2017, maybe 2018, where we hit 1 million pounds of food rescued.
Wow.
That was really exciting for us. That was a big deal. And then after that, so it took us about 8 years to get to 1 million pounds of food. But then after that, it was just, it was just so rapidly increasing after that. And then I remember when we got to 5,000 families on the pantry, we thought that that was really significant. And of course, now we're up to 7,000 families registered on the pantry program. So yeah, we think that what we also like to track is how many people remove themselves from the program, right? So that's important as well. But in terms of the numbers, it's all of it. Every time we see the numbers increasing, it makes us think, okay, on one hand, we're really happy that we are capable and we're able to serve so many people. On the other hand, it makes us nervous that there are, of course, so many people that are experiencing food insecurity and are really reaching out for help.
And of course, to deliver so many millions of pounds of food, that has to be funded. And I know you're very thankful to the public and to the corporations that assist. But one of your major fundraisers is the Paradise Plates.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that and how has that evolved under your leadership?
So Paradise Plates, yes, of course, it is our main fundraising event. And everyone can feel really, I think, everyone who attends Paradise Plates should really feel proud for having contributed to everything that we've spent this show talking about, right? Each ticket purchase for Paradise Plates is what allows us to do this. And I think that, how has it evolved? I'm not sure. So we had a break with Paradise Plates. Yes. I think we had 2 years during the pandemic, of course. And so when I first became executive director, Paradise Plates wasn't even on the radar, which was interesting because up until then, Paradise Plates had been our main source of income, right? So we were faced with this dual problem of not being able to have our main fundraising event while also needing to expand our programs and to reach even more people. So for the first 3 years of me being executive director, we were kind of figuring out, okay, what does Hands for Hunger look like without this main fundraising event? And as soon as we got into the swing of things with looking for new sources of donations and applying for grants, all of a sudden we were like, wait, we can have Paradise Plates again. So then we really shifted gears back into, okay, yes, Paradise Plates, it's a great event. We enjoy it so much. We enjoy putting it on. The community enjoys being a part of it. And so we shifted back to, okay, how do we make sure that we can plan this great celebration? And I think every year Paradise Plates gets better. Every year we surprise ourselves with what we can do. And yeah, it's a great time. It's a celebration, and it really is so crucial to the work that we do.
Do you have a favorite year or a favorite theme from Paradise Plates?
I think, hands down, my favorite Paradise Plates. Okay, so I'll be honest. The first one that we had when I was executive director was a huge deal, right? Because I was like, am I going to be able to do Paradise Plates as great as we've done in the past, right? And when we had it and it was just so well received and people had such a great time, that was really a meaningful moment for me. But then the second year, we were in the swing of things, right? In the second year, we knew we were able to make bolder decisions because now the whole team was confident. That first Paradise Plates back after COVID, it's important to note as well that we had an entirely different staff. So no one on staff other than me had ever planned a Paradise Plates before. So that was a fun time. It was exciting. It was exhilarating. It was stressful. So that would be my favorite. But by the second year, we were just in the swing of things. We worked really well together. We knew what we wanted. We knew what we wanted to do. So I would say it's tie for those two.
I know it's too early to give anything away yet, but are you looking forward to anything special this year?
Of course, it's always special. It's always special. We're always sometimes as surprised as the guests, right? Because we have this vision, but when we see it come together, we get the same feeling as our guests get.
So no sneak peeks.
Absolutely not.
No sneak peeks. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. So looking forward, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for the organization in the next 5 years?
I think that the biggest opportunity for Hands for Hunger is really just standing on the foundation that we have. We have excellent programs in place. We have excellent trust within the community. People know that they can rely on us for that immediate food assistance. I think what's next for us is really being able to look at some of these root causes, right? What can we do to elevate the conversation around food insecurity in the country? What can we do to encourage people in positions of power and privilege to really start looking at this, seeing this as a holistic issue that, impacts all of us, and really looking at ways that we can make systemic changes so that we're not having these conversations about food insecurity. We have a nice sized population. You know what I mean? We don't have tens of millions of people like some other countries. I sincerely think that, with a little bit of thought, a little bit of effort, some deliberate motivation, we really could revolutionize the way food is distributed, the nutrition in this country. And I sincerely think that we can be a model for Caribbean countries and other countries around the world.
Do you think we as a nation, we're taking that seriously, finding the root cause and addressing it?
I will say that it is difficult for me to find evidence of that outside of, Hands for Hunger and, of course, our very close partners. I would say that it seems to me like most of the decisions that are made regarding food insecurity seem to be very surface level, seem to be very Band-Aid solutions. And they don't seem to take into account, changes that can be made on a deeper level to really make an impact into this.
Beyond the immediate fix that you guys offer. So what part of the job has been the most challenging for you?
Oh, so much of it is challenging.
Sure.
We're a small team, small and mighty, which means that all of us are doing a lot, right? All of us kind of wear many hats. So I think that some of the challenges have been, just all of it. Hearing the stories, of people wishing that you can do more, right? Trying to do more and realizing that even though you do more, it's still not enough. That can become frustrating. I think that fundraising is hard. Fundraising is a very hard job. It is. But, all of it, with all of the difficulties comes such great rewards, right? And such meaningful impact that I would never even consider foregoing the difficulties, because I know that it's those things that propel us and help us to make better decisions and deeper decisions and propel us to want to continue to do more.
Talk about the joys, the highs of the reward. And you said people come back and say, hey, you won't see me for a while. Talk about the highs of the...
Yeah, I mean, there are so many of them. And, it really is a great feeling where you know that even if you have a bad day at work, okay, you've done some good though, right? Yes. Even if, something didn't go completely as planned, that at the end of the day, you did something meaningful, you did something concrete, a decision that you made has led to someone else's life being a little bit easier. So I think that all of that really comes into play. And of course, the great team. We really do enjoy working with each other. We have an awesome team. The people who support us are volunteers. I'm telling you, this line of work, you really get to see the best sides of humanity. So it really is a privilege.
Any plans for expansion in the year ahead?
Yes, I would like to see us expanding as far throughout the Bahamas as humanly possible. It's always been a goal of ours to be able to assist people on each family island. We continue to make strides toward that. As I said earlier, we need to expand our school pantry programs. Even while we work toward no longer needing school pantry programs. When we think about our H4H pantry itself, you know, there's only so long that we're going to be able to continue to support the numbers of people that are coming through there. So expansion definitely is needed. I'd like to see us doing more education and awareness. Of course, we've started a cooking show last year, which is a part of what we're doing to raise education and help people think about the way they use the things in their cupboard a little bit better. So I want to see us continuing to grow and expand. And of course, we need the help of the community to do that through ideas and support and of course donations.
What is the long-term vision for ending hunger in the Bahamas, and what does success look like for you?
Well, success looks like Transform Bahamas, where everyone has access to 3 healthy and fortifying meals each day. If you visit our website, you'll see that on there. And I think that what success looks like in the long run is, you know, quite simply, people having access to food, people not having to worry about whether or not they'll be able to eat today, right? And I think the worry has a lot to do with it, right? I think that if we can create a Bahamas where everyone here knows, okay, no matter what I might face today, no matter what other challenges might come my way this day, I know that at least food won't be one of those things.
Awesome. Any final thoughts or call to action for our people?
As always, you know, don't be afraid to do what you can do in the community. Don't be afraid to do the little thing that you can do to help someone else in any regard. And if you can, find a charity in the Bahamas, find an organization that you think is doing good work and see how you can support. If you can donate money, if you can donate your expertise. A lot of nonprofits in the country need help with like paperwork and filing and, you know, things like that. So find an organization in your community or nationwide that you think is doing great work, that you want to be a part of, that you want to support, and find out how best you can support them.
Awesome. I love that advice so much. Keisha, thank you so much for spending time with us today and sharing all of the great work that you and your small but mighty team do. I thank you. The nation thanks you. And if you need a guest chef for your host, I've been known to make a dish or two.
Good to know. Good to know.
Thank you so much. And again, stick with us. We will have our final thoughts right after this final break. And to the executive director, thanks to your fearless leadership, Hands for Hunger is stronger because of you. And to our audience, now is the time to step up. Support the Hands for Hunger organization. Attend Paradise Plates, donate, volunteer, and spread the word. The work continues and your hands matter too. I'm Megan Shepard and this has been On the Record. Good night.